to Healing Podcast, where laughter meets inner peace. We're your host, Shaka.
And I'm Kiana.
And we want to thank you guys for spending another day with us. We really appreciate everyone tuning in, liking, sharing, commenting, sending us messages. We really do appreciate you guys coming along with a journey with us.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So last week we did have a really, really good topic. We talked about men having vulnerability and sharing emotions. And we did get a lot of feedback from you guys. We really appreciate it. We're going to talk about, one of the feedback we got at the end of the episode. But we really appreciate everyone's comments, right? It's something that we always want to echo on this podcast. We want to do stuff that is non-traditional, and we want to allow people to be people.
Absolutely.
Right? We want to allow people to be people, and we want to allow people to be true to who they are. Right? So thank you guys for all the feedback that we got. I know a lot of men shared, and we really do appreciate that. Now, this week we want to talk about nutrition, right? This month, in the month of March, is National Nutrition Awareness Month, I think. And we want to talk about, eating right and having the right nutrition, especially in the Caribbean American community, right? What does that look like? So we just want to make sure we have a disclaimer that Kiana and I aren't medical doctors.
We are not.
Right? We're not medical doctors and medical professionals. And whatever information that we give does not substitute for professional medical advice. So we want to ensure people, we want to emphasize that you always want to go and seek medical advice from a professional.
Absolutely.
Right? So that's something that we definitely want to share. And we do, definitely want to encourage you to ensure that you do go to professional after hearing all this, or even not. Right? Just ensure that you always do your regular checkup. Which is something that we don't love to do in general as a Caribbean community, or as a community in general.
Yes.
Right? Nobody like going to the doctor. So I understand.
Yeah.
But we just want to make sure that we talk about that. But we're talking about food because we love food. I mean, absolutely, we definitely love our food. I ain't ever met one Caribbean person that didn't like eat. I ain't gonna lie. There's people who like. I met a lot of Americans that don't like to eat. They're like, oh, I want to pick. I've never met.
We love our bellies.
I've never met a Caribbean person. I mean, y'all, obviously we're not a monolith. We're different people, so y'all don't come for me. But me and my family, we will eat. Okay, and we love it. I'm not hating on that, but sometimes, we
love to eat too much.
That's the problem.
Facts.
Okay?
So
we want to talk about nutrition in our Caribbean American society, and what does that look like, and what we can do to ensure that we're growing, because that's what we want to do. Always want to grow on this show. Okay.
So like Shaka said, today we're diving into the vibrant and flavorful food that the Caribbean is known for. Like, we know that when it comes to Caribbean food or rich culture and all that stuff, we're going to bring the deliciousness from curry to jerk chicken to dal puri to rice and peas, cook up rice, saltfish of all variants. We are going to bring the delicious cuisines to the forefront, and that's something that we celebrate and we relish in. But we also have to talk about the potential unhealthy nature of some of our traditional cuisines. Like, they're in Caribbean diet, there's so many like things that we rely upon. Like, for example, using too much sodium. Like, our foods are flavorful, which is great because nobody want to eat bland food. Absolutely not.
No.
And the good thing is we have our nice fresh herbs that we use, like our thyme or cilantro or basil, so many different ingredients that we can use. Don't come for me. I do cook. Don't come for me. Like, this girl don't even know what seasons that we use, right?
Many seasons.
Many seasons. But we also rely heavily on like using pre-made seasonings, and a lot of those things, such as like cubes and bouillon and stuff like that, have like a lot of sodium. Like, if you look in the back of those things, you will see that a lot of times it's almost double, if not triple, the required amount of sodium intake per day. So that's something that we need to pay extremely close attention to, because in our community, we have a lot of people that troubles with like hypertension, high blood pressure, diabetes. So those are things that plagues our community, and it's something that we can do. We could be mindful of as we take a closer look at what we're eating.
So you're saying the seasoning, the pre-made seasoning. What about all-purpose seasoning?
It's all the same. Like anytime it's like a prepackaged thing, always pay close attention.
I don't know you guys, but the chief, shout out to chief,
Yeah.
The all-purpose seasoning. You saying that that's not good? I know I heard.
I'm not saying that it's not good. I don't want. Okay. Let's not make this claim. Say that it's not good.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is, be mindful. Look at the back. Look at those sodium levels in Maggie cubes, chiefs, adobo. Some people use adobo and stuff like that. Even like American made seasonings. Like pay attention to the sodium level.
Okay, because with the Maggies, I've heard, because I was watching this little documentary talking about the revolution of the Maggie cubes in the Caribbean and African society, and they were talking about how one Maggie cube equals to 3 times your salt intake for the day, which was amazing to me. So I know some people use like half a cube. Yeah. I mean, you might want to cut down on the cube, but at least maybe if you want to cut out whole cube, do half a cube or something like that. But so after seeing that, I was like, let me stop with the cubes. But you're saying that even the seasoning of itself might have a lot of high sodium
any
intake.
pre-made, prepackaged seasonings that you buy, unless it's like you do garlic powder, that's probably fine because it has no added sodium. Anytime there's added sodium, you need to pay close attention to it, because a lot of times, once again, we season food and you're adding a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this. Those things add up over time. So you want to pay closer attention to the sodium levels on the back of these prepackaged seasonings. Always lean more, and I know as a people we definitely do lean more to like fresher ingredients, like the seasonings that we make, green seasoning, or whatever it's called so many different things, sofritos and stuff like that. But once again, we just need to be mindful of that kind of the sodium we intake, because it's easy to overdo it. Very easy.
Okay, because I've never thought about that, especially with the seasoning, because in especially Caribbean societies, or we go back to slavery. That's something we always make a joke and say everything goes back to slavery, y'all. Everything goes back to slavery. Back then we used to have to heavily season the food because unfortunately,
or preserve the food. Like saltfish is preserving fish with like salt and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it was a form of preservation. So as a people, we use a lot of salt traditionally.
Yeah. I know with the seasoning, because we had like the poorer qualities of food and meat, we used to heavily season the food, and that's why we particularly would use a lot of that. So
it makes sense.
Yeah, and sodium isn't good indeed in the long term, but we need to definitely do more research to see.
Yeah, and just to make
towards that,
and just to make a clarification, the overconsumption of sodium, like everything in moderation, is fine. We're not saying that you have to completely eliminate sodium from your diet, but be careful of it. Don't overconsume it. Don't eat too much of it, because anything in excess is definitely harmful.
Yeah. Okay. That is a good disclaimer. So because in truth, growing up in especially Caribbean society, like for me, we were taught how to in my mind how to eat healthy, because we talked about like Western places, like they eat a lot of meat, or they do a lot of this, and we eat a lot of vegetables.
Wait, so you think that we were taught to eat healthy?
I always thought, really? It because I remember growing up not eating that, it'd be like, we can't eat so much meat because they say heart disease. And I remember someone telling me, oh, no, not us, because like in America, those places, they eat a lot of red meat. They just throw the steak and it's rare or whatever. So that what causes the issue. So I was like, oh well, I'm go eating my carbs, I'm go eating my rice. As long as I stay away from the meat, I am fine.
Really?
Yeah, so less meat meant better. At least that's what I was taught growing up. So a lot of meat, but maybe, you know, come to think about it, is that maybe we didn't access to a lot of meat. Maybe that's why that eventually came down. But that's what I was always taught, that we were having a much healthier diet. But when you know, you look at it, that's not necessarily the case. Because, you know, I have, you know, going on my health journey and stuff like that, and, you know, trying to make sure that I'm on the right track in terms of eating healthy and having a good weight and stuff like that. You know, I did consult with a dietitian, and you know, she was telling me, I was like, oh well, I'm good. I just want to know how to lose weight. I eat healthy. You know, and then we were going through my meals, and then she's like, oh well, you can't eat that, and I was like, what? I don't eat a lot of meat. I don't do this. I don't know. She's like, no, that's not the problem. I eat way too much carbs because I love my rice, y'all. One thing y'all gonna learn about me in the show, I love my rice. You know, they say
rice is life.
Rice has a hold on me. It does, bro. Let me tell you.
Me too.
It has a hold on me, and that's something that when I talked to her, she was like, absolutely not. I consume way too much rice. Eating rice every day is absolutely a no-no. And I was like, are you kidding me? Right? You know, and I'm looking at this. She's a professional and she's telling me this. And I was like, absolutely not. I couldn't believe it. And then she was telling me I eat too little. And I was like, I eat too little. Are you kidding me? You know, because she's like, well, you need to start with breakfast. You know, say breakfast is the most important meal of the day. But for me, being a busy person, breakfast is not a priority for me. And I know some people be like, well, I know breakfast is the most important meal of the day, but you'll be surprised how many people skip breakfast.
Yeah, especially in America. Like, you know, the culture is go, 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 go. So a lot of times we sacrifice good eating habits because we don't have the time.
We don't have the time, right? And she was telling me that what she was a scary realization. She told me that because I was like, I ain't got time with you. I'm gonna lie, y'all. I know I'm supposed to be listening to the professional, but you know, we be want to do our own thing, right? And what really stuck with me is that she said that most of the people that have diabetes, as was she said, you know, her conclusion, they would skip breakfast. And I was shocked.
Or meals in general.
Yeah, meal in general, but they were a very heavy breakfast skipping crew.
Wow.
And I was like, what? So I'm like, I'm a try.
Wow. Crazy.
To start eating my breakfast or whatever. And that was like crazy to me, right? But that was just my experience. So you might think, you know, because we like, oh, sometimes even with our own health, hypertension, whatever, you know, diabetes, cholesterol, all those different things, you might hear and think you're doing the right thing or whatever, but then consulting with a professional really helps along. And that's why we want to bring awareness, because that's all we can do here is to bring awareness and say, okay, what do you think? Maybe you need to consult a professional to ensure that we're on the right track, right? So another big thing too in the Caribbean is that, like, another documentary or a little clip I was watching is about the fast food industry taking over the Caribbean. And you know, and that we want to move so much to this American culture. And being born in the Caribbean, of course, I'm not hating one bit. I agree. Like growing up, I want to cook food. You know, everybody be like, you know, you got McDonald's money, like KFC money, right? KFC money was our thing because back then we didn't have KFC. McDonald's, right? So we wanted KFC, and you're like, I got KFC at home. You know, your mom will tell you that. And now KFC is so prevalent and cheap, and we think that it's easy. It's easy to do, but now that I'm looking back, like, you know, traveling to the Caribbean, even when I travel to the Caribbean on vacation and whatever, my family would be like, we want some KFC. I'd be like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I do not want, I want my organic,
home cooked
real food, because we take that for granted, y'all. And I know that I'll be like, oh, well, you know, she's talking about whatever. But trust me, like, when you out of it, because I can McDonald's stuff like that, it's so that's so easy to get right around the corner. I don't want that. I do not want that. I want my good home cooked food because it's healthier for your body. Like,
Yeah, and it
what?
just tastes so good.
Yeah.
So
When you
good.
go home, you could tell the realness of the food. Like, you could really tell that this food is genuinely real. Like, and I love that. So honestly, if you live in the Caribbean, embrace that.
Yes.
Embrace that. And
Embrace it.
if you live in America, let's try our best to get back to that instead of going to this fast food things, right? But we need to focus on having that organic, healthy home cooked meal. But we know time is a huge factor. But how can we factor that in?
Yeah, absolutely. And just to add, like, I know you mentioned that growing up you were taught how to eat nutritionally. Like
I thought I was
you
eating.
taught
I thought I was eating.
but I feel like it's important to know that a lot of people, in the Caribbean who were more impoverished, grew up in poverty. Like a lot of times, nutrition wasn't the most
priority.
Like being fed was priority. Whatever that may look like, you eat what you had. And a lot of times that might not have been the most nutritious meal. So a lot of times, coming from that sort of background, it's important to know, like, maybe we all didn't have like the best start in like what is nutrition and what does like a well balanced meal look like. And let us be. We hope this episode will be like a starting point for you to start thinking about that and start to think about what are some things that you can do that is realistic and achievable and accessible for you so that you can make those changes, because like for example living in America, the busy lifestyle of like living in America, the hustle and bustle, a lot of times we just reach for convenience. Some people work in 2 jobs, some people have kids, like whatever's convenient, like a lot of times we reach for that, and that's sacrifice. You're sacrificing nutrition for convenience, and a lot of times that doesn't work because we're not giving ourselves the nutrition that we need, and a lot of time we get negative side effects of that, and some of that being gaining weight. A lot of times you might hear, oh, you moved to America, you get fat, girl. Like, okay, thank you for stating the obvious. I see myself in the mirror every day. But it's just like the way in which we've had to basically adjust to American life, and not to say that we're not trying to eat our own food. Like, sometimes there's an issue with access if you don't live somewhere that has like a grocery store, a food desert, or even you do have a grocery store, and a food desert is basically places where there's not easy access to food, like fresh food. So you might, some people living in New York might just be close to a bodega, and the bodega might not even have like fresh produce, and that's a problem. And even like living in other parts of America, you do have fresh food, but it might not be what you're used to.
Correct.
So I've had to make like a lot of substitutes to the type of food like I would eat back home here, to kind of like to make it work. And it's not the same. Like it doesn't taste the same. The quality of the food is not the same. And because of that, you just gotta do what you gotta do with it. And once again, like a negative side effect of that is that sometimes you eat in the home cooked meal, you eat in the food that you prepare at home, the same food technically or close to it, and you're gaining weight, and then you're like, what? I'm not eating fast food. I'm not going to McDonald's every day. I'm not doing none of that kind of stuff, but I'm still gaining weight. Because a lot of times our food is so rich in like in in flavors, as well as the quantity is very large. So what happens is that you move to America, you're no longer walking as you used
proper
to.
transportation.
So that's a huge one for me. Like, in Guyana and other Caribbean countries, like you might not have access to a car. You might not have your own personal car, so you would walk, or you took public transportation to get around. And travel. Just movement was a part of like your daily life. People have gardening. People like we were much more social, so we were always going out, hanging out with people, and a lot of people hike in the Caribbean. I just would see the beautiful scenery and stuff like that. So in America, it's like if you're working all the time and you're driving everywhere you go, a lot of times you have to be intentional about exercising. And that's a whole other thing, because if you're not used to being a person who exercise outside of like having a naturally active lifestyle, it is hard to pick up.
Yes,
it is hard.
Yes, and that's, I feel like, because exercise was something like it was so easy to come to us in the Caribbean. Basically, like, as you mentioned, trusting public transportation, or even people living in the beach, near the beach or whatever, or near the river, back where we're from. People swim every day,
yes, for fun.
Exactly. Yeah. So that all contributes. I remember, like, for me, as you mentioned, eating the same foods. And even the dietitian, my dietitian, she told me, she's like, I'm not moving up because back home, when first steps came out on your phone, I was back home, and I would hit at least 10,000 steps. Easy.
Wow, easily.
Then I moved here, and I go to work, and I'm at 1,500 steps.
Yes. I was like, oh my, literally. And if you have like a desk job, forget about it. You have to be so intentional about it, and it's hard. And we get that, like, it is so hard.
Yeah, and so now we have to learn that, because exercising wasn't something that is like on priority of our minds. Yeah. And now we're like, oh, you know what? You need to exercise. I'm like, yeah. What is that? Like, I mean, we don't want to get into too much in what exercising is, because it's like, okay, well, it's running, it's walking, it's jogging, and then people are like, oh, well, you got to do weight. Yeah. You got to do with your BMI and the other one you like talk about, because she knows more about exercise than me. She's like, oh, no, you got to measure this and that. I'm like, what?
It's a lot.
Too much maths just to exercise? I am not doing that.
It is.
Should I take public transportation again? And like, I mean, even
I remember that one.
in New York too, it's easier to take public transportation. So
or walking, because things are much closer together. True. Because like in other parts of the country, you can't just walk to Walmart. You gotta drive. It's impossible.
Yeah. So I think definitely the importance of exercise is missed, because it was so easy to like incorporate in your day, even though as we get older, lifestyle might change. Even like kids playing outside,
kids don't play outside anymore.
Exactly.
They're on their iPad or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. So that contributes a lot, and we see an increase in childhood obesity as well, and that could probably be the reason, because they're not playing outside as much as before. So let's try to get back to those things. I mean, we see, like we want to advance and do things and modern, but like as much as we're like traditional, let's take the traditional and try to mix it up to get the good out of it, right? So like, even with our eating habits, as I mentioned, like I thought that my eating habits was amazing when I was home. Because in the Caribbean, like, we do have a lot of carbohydrates as our staple. And once again, think about it, probably go back to slavery too, because that was easy accessible.
Yeah, but most Caribbean countries either grow their own produce. So like, for example, like in places like Guyana, grow their own rice, provision is sugar. Yeah, readily accessible. So like, whatever is accessible, a lot of times that becomes a staple part of the diet.
Correct. And that is something that we focus on, because that's what's there and easy for us to eat, right? So like rice and vegetables, they definitely play an important part of our diet, right? But these foods, they provide a lot of energy. However, they can contribute to like insulin resistance, which can lead to diabetes, right? So it's very important that we have a balance to what we're eating, right? Because a lot of times we have we focus a lot on the sugar and stuff like that. It's like, because we see a huge diabetes, the rise of diabetes in our community. A lot of families have diabetes, and you look at, sadly your grandmother died with diabetes, your grandfather died with diabetes, and it's like, it's inevitable or whatever. But it's not necessarily inevitable, because it's of genetics only, but it's what the food
that you eat.
Exactly. Because your mom accustomed to cooking this meal because her mom cook it, and she used to cook it every day. She get diabetes, and she get diabetes. Now you can get diabetes. It's because you're eating the same thing, right? And because we don't know, like for me, I'm gonna be honest. When I heard of diabetes in the Caribbean, we call it sugar, right? We call it, this person got sugar, and I was like, okay, well, you gotta do.
Stop eating sugar.
Not knowing sugar and not even a part of the problem, right? Because but
it's not the main part of the problem.
It's not the main part of the problem, because I put aside the sugar. I ain't got time for the sugar. and I'm basically eating the rice. Right? Basically eating the rice. But when the rice breaks down, guess what it turns to? Sugar. And that blew my mind. Me like a fool thinking, oh, I'm not drinking sugar. Oh, I'm like my little Kool-Aid. I'm putting sugar inside and it tastes good. That's suffering through the watered down Kool-Aid. Right? When I could have been just, drinking a little, being moderate with the sugar and being moderate with the rice. And y'all, and trust me, I'd be like, oh no, she coming for our rice. Bro, ain't nobody suffering with our rice more than me. All right, I dare somebody come and be like, Shaka, they like my rice more than me. I don't think there's nobody that like rice more than me. So I do understand, right? Because the carbohydrates that rice, because that's what rice is, right? That's what control our blood glucose and our insulin for metabolism, right? So meaning that certain foods, right, are high in carbs that basically turn into sugar into our bodies. So we might be looking at sugar of itself. I don't know why they call it sugar. Like, think about it. I don't know why.
I don't know either.
But it's not even. It's a part of the problem. But it's all the carbs that
that's a good question to ask once we have our first guest. Whoever wants to come on our show, definitely let us know.
Yeah,
we're open.
Yeah. So, and we really need to talk. I mean, we cannot talk about nutrition without talking about diabetes and the impact it's having on us, right? Because according to the IDF Diabetes Atlas, right, it says that North American and Caribbean are ranked 4th in the world, right, for diabetes. And it's prevalent in adults between 20, imagine the age of 20. Back then, sometimes it used to be like us older people had diabetes, but now it's taking even younger because we see in childhood diabetes
because of the obesity. Like, we're all, not all, but a lot of people, we're becoming people that are overweight, which contributes as another factor into, lack of movement plus eating the same amount, and eating high carb food as well, and obviously genetics as well, all play a role in, the diabetes epidemic.
Yeah, exactly. So, and as it's projected to even be worse in the future, start as young as the age of 11, right? So we definitely want to ensure that that we actually know, because a lot of times we don't even know what diabetes actually is. And I may be naive. I was like, oh, I definitely had to stay away from the sugar, and I'm eating all the carbohydrates, my plate full of rice, right, loving it, enjoying it, having a good time, and that is basically what's attacking your body. So I think it's important, if you go to medical profession and they're like, oh, you have this thing, research it. I would say research it, seek more than one opinions, because you never know what it is you might be doing that you're thinking you're doing the right thing, but it's actually not attributing.
Absolutely. And like Shishaka said, go to a medical profession and research it, because in our community, a lot of times we rather go to the bushman for bush medicine, and everything has its place. Everything has its place, and we believe in like holistic treatments of the whole body, but it should not substitute going to a doctor. It's important to know what's going on internally inside of your bodies, and from that assessment you can take a holistic approach in how you would want to do treatment if necessary. So knowing is important. So definitely schedule a doctor's visit, get your annual blood work done, check your certain levels for your cholesterol, check your hypertension levels, check if you're pre-diabetic or whatever. Those are things, and those are the starting point to get to know what's going on inside of you, and that is something that we definitely need to talk about more, because like I said, like, we are so used to just like either brushing things under the rug, and we're just like, oh, notice like this person is always thirsty, for example. No matter how much water they drink, they're always thirsty, and you're like, before you go and like, before that person goes and like go to the doctor to check it out, you're just like, no, let me go to the bushman and see what he got. Once again, we're not saying anything is wrong with that, but find out what's going on with you, and then you can better understand whatever remedies that that they may provide. And also research that as well, research, because a lot of times, like bush medicine or holistic treatment, they go unregulated, and
exactly that part there,
yeah,
yeah.
and that's something that you need to pay attention
Like,
to.
what dosage should you take?
Yeah, exactly. Or once again, you need to pay attention to stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And just want to highlight like a group of people, in the Caribbean. Like growing up, I remember seeing like the Rastafarians, the Rastamen in particular, eating their like their ITIL food,
Mm-hmm.
and you were always like, that is extremely strict, because they follow like a strict vegetarian diet, and some of them do not consume sea salt at all. So it's like, what? That's crazy. But now I'm thinking back about it, and like maybe they had somewhat of like a more holistic and a healthier way of viewing eating. And we don't have to be that extreme, but oftentimes their food were well balanced. Like they always had a good amount of carbohydrates, a good amount of vegetables, and they did, substitute protein in whatever way, in the form of beans and legumes,
Yeah,
and stuff like that, and nuts and stuff like that.
Yeah, because they say ITIL is vital. That's what it is.
Yeah, literally, that's where it came from. From the word vital. Yeah, ITIL is vital.
Oh, that's where it came from? Oh, I did not know that.
That's where it came from.
Look at that.
And yeah, so that's always like, that was just a thought I had. Like, like when it comes to like looking back and in my experience growing up in the Caribbean, like who had like a really good grasp of like nutrition.
Yeah.
And I would give them their props. So Rastaman and women, y'all been doing your thing from the beginning. Yeah,
you have.
We may need to learn a thing or two from you guys. So shout out.
Yeah, that's true, and definitely not bashing holistic medicine, because I know a lot of people strongly believe in that, and we're not saying don't do it, but we're saying incorporate.
Yeah,
incorporate, because I know a lot of stories that people say bush medicine help, but I know a lot of stories that it did not help, speaking from personal experience. So you definitely want to ensure that you know what you're doing. And they say the Caribbean tea is medicine. We love our tea, right? I know nothing make me feel good than a good hot tea. So we're not bashing that, but we want it to incorporate both, because if the medicine is good, if whatever doctor provides is good, technically the holistic treatment shouldn't cancel out. Nor the medicine that the doctor provided shouldn't cancel out.
Just do your research.
Right? So we're not promoting any kind of extreme diet, but we do want to ensure that people, make better choices when they're eating, right? What are you eating? What are you putting in your body?
Yeah.
Do some research. Try to find out, right? So look at the meals that you're eating in what do you need to eat more of? You don't want to eat less. We want to be moderate, especially with the carbs. We do lean heavy on the carbs, and that's something that we want to move away from. But I know that you guys be like, oh no, that's right. But definitely do your own research and ask, what we should be, eating. So definitely want to do that, at least look at the serving sizes of things. Like I never paid attention to serving sizes. Like I just do whatever bowl I got in my kitchen. That's the amount of rice. I got a specific rice bowl. I thought like a cup meant whatever cup inside you house. You know what I mean? Or whatever cup.
Nope,
in
the
rice
standard
bag.
cup size.
When I actually start measuring a cup, I was like, that's not a cup. That cannot be the amount of rice somebody want me to eat. Absolutely not. I'm sorry. Absolutely not. Right? So definitely that's something you wanna focus in. Not some random cup in your kitchen, but an actual cup. But once again, eat moderate. Look at the stuff. Eat more protein. Once again, you don't have to go out and get expensive meat or whatever. What is available to you, definitely want to lean in on that. What's good
and
for
beans, legumes, and stuff like that is a good protein substitute.
Yes, a good protein substitute. Also salt, minimize use of salt into it. Look at your seasoning, right? Because if you have all-purpose seasoning, this season, that season, all got salt inside, and you put all inside, that's a lot of salt.
Yeah.
Right? So definitely look at that. Look at the cubes, as I mentioned, when I read about the 1 cube is 3 times the salt that I'm supposed to consume in one day. It was a lot.
Crazy.
So, I know. So I couldn't believe it. And obviously double up on your fruits and vegetable, which is easier to you in the Caribbean. I know like people like to post, this is the price of this now, this is the price of that now. Whatever is cheap at the time, because seasons are
buy in season.
Whatever is cheap in the season is where you got to buy. That's where you buy, and that's where you double
It
up
makes
on.
sense.
Yeah. Was it for next season? That's what you want to do for the next season. But try to eat heavily on your vegetables and your fruits. You know, in the Caribbean, it's easy because you get fruit trees in your backyard and stuff like that. Here, you got to make a conscious decision to ensure you incorporate those things and fruits, not fruit juice.
Yeah.
Because when you're checking the fruit juice, make sure you check the sugar content, because usually it's a lot of sugar. So definitely eating the fresher fruits is more important. But especially living in American society, we might need to take we might really make an additional effort to go out and get it. And people in Caribbean, you don't have to. So definitely try to use your resources, what you have, and double up on that, but make sure you're being moderate as well.
And some other things you can do is definitely, especially if you already have pre-existing conditions such as diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol, and others,
or your
sicknesses.
Family is genetic, you have it in your genes too.
Definitely consult a dietitian, nutrition, because once again, having professionals to help you is the best way, because you can listen to anybody on the internet and there's a million different information that you will find.
True.
So seeking professional help that can tailor stuff specifically for you, you want to do so. And also look for like dietitians that are culturally appropriate for you, that they can understand like you are from a Caribbean background and your food might be different than a traditional American diet. So someone who can tailor your meal plans or whatever to that is like a great starting point. And
true.
So definitely look into that. And we also talked about going to the doctor to like have like your blood work done, so you know your levels, so you can eat more of something if you're lacking, and vice versa, or stop eating something that you shouldn't be eating that impacts your health. So those are some things you want to do as well. And also you can start to doing like instead of like deep frying stuff or using a lot of oils, eat more grilled and baked food.
Yeah.
And that way it's like a healthier alternative. Instead of like frying the fish all the time, maybe bake it sometimes, grill it sometimes. And that way,
so no more fish fry.
And I'm saying, once again, we're not advocating that you completely remove all the things that that you love, but you don't have to do that all the time. You can substitute it for healthier alternatives and stuff like that.
That's true.
And yeah, drink more water. Drink your water. Mind your business. Drink it. And if you got coconut water, even better for you, because once again, it's a great source of hydration. Try to drink more water than sodas and fruit juices and stuff like that, because hydration is key. Our body is mostly water, so we really need to work on our hydration levels.
True.
And sometimes that can be hard, but whatever you need to do, buy a nice fancy water bottle or whatever to get the job done.
Yeah.
So yeah, with wrapping up this portion of the episode, we did receive a question, so we're going to do another Q&A, and this is from an anonymous person, so we don't have their name, but we're going to answer the questions, and it's a juicy one. So let me read it.
Okay.
So he says, "Hey Shaka and Kiana, I have a dilemma where I was vulnerable in front of my wife and shed some tears. I don't want to get into it, but I thought she was my safe space. But then later that day, I overheard her on the phone with her friend, telling her that I was crying and she'd never seen me cry before. And she ain't like that. She doesn't know that I heard her on the phone, but ever since that day, I feel so hurt. I can't trust this woman, and I don't even think I can be with her anymore. We have 2 kids, so I'm trying for their sake. But I don't know, man. Y'all talk about men need to be vulnerable, but yet when we do it, it gets thrown back in our face. Fed up of this. Flip." So, whoa, that's a big one. What immediately comes to your mind?
Oh, wow, that's a difficult one. Well, thank you, Mr. Anonymous, for sending in the question. Really appreciate you watching and feeling vulnerable to share your thoughts and your feelings.
Yeah, that took strength.
That's so even though you were upset about being vulnerable, you took the time to do that and send a message to us. So we really appreciate that. And I want to say, I'm sorry that you experienced that. Being vulnerable is something that is hard to do for both men and women. And I think we want to make sure we highlight that. I don't think that's something that we focus too much on the last episode, because a lot of men are told not to be vulnerable, not to be open with emotions. But we forgot, or forgot to mention, a lot of women do not
First
like.
of all, fire punchy, because
But this is a man's wife.
Why would she do that to him? Oh my God.
Yeah, she's wrong for that.
So wrong.
But we got to remember that women find it's hard to express vulnerability as well. So maybe that's why she took that approach. It's wrong. Absolutely wrong. But I'm thinking,
clunging the man on the phone.
The man didn't say she clung. The man didn't say that.
She says she don't like that.
She just expressed an opinion. Is that clowning? It'd be like, hey, he, wrong with he. That's different.
Or she could have told him she didn't like he crying.
I know, but that's what we want to. We want them to have that dialogue, right? Because I'm saying, look at it from her point of view. She may not be, clearly she's not able to process vulnerability, right? That's what I think. Because as a woman too, I wasn't, or as a girl growing up, I wasn't allowed to express my emotions or cry at home. I didn't have that safe space either. I was, it was very frowned upon to even shed a tear. So now people crying around me, I'm not gonna say, oh, it's okay. I gotta take a minute, and I have to learn that. And I'm thinking she needs to learn that as well.
Absolutely.
Because clearly she's not comfortable with emotions, and there's probably a reason for that. Not excusing her behavior. Because when you want to have a relationship, you want to make sure you're each other's safe space.
Absolutely.
Right? So I think, to me, that's something that you can think about. You know what? Maybe think back about her childhood. Maybe think back of what, she shared that maybe in the past.
So with that being said, maybe she's not comfortable with her emotions. Yes. That's why she talked to her friend, she don't know what to do with this emotion.
Correct.
So what should he do right now? Because once again, how can he be vulnerable again with her in the future if he already knows this is how she feels about it? What can be done right now?
Well, I think you need to talk to her about it. Obviously, tell her that, okay, well, this is what happened. Why would you do that? Do you have issues with vulnerability? Once again, not, what she did wasn't right, but ask her, why is she so uncomfortable? Because sometimes it might be something that she didn't realize within herself that, maybe I am uncomfortable with my man crying. Maybe I'm so used to my dad or whatever, this macho persona, that I didn't realize that what I'm doing. And tell her how you were betrayed, because let me tell you something, keeping it to yourself and then resenting her, especially, so you mentioned you guys have kids, it's not gonna go down that. It's the best thing is just to lean into it. I know you're already hurt about sharing your point of view, and now she is definitely, so now you got to go back and do that. It's difficult, but tell her how hurt you are. Just say, you know what, I don't think I'll be able to communicate with you in the future because of this. And have her tell you what she can do in the future, right? Tell her, okay, well, let her come up with a plan, as in how can she earn your trust to share again, right? Both of you come up with a plan on what she can do, because this is definitely not the way. And if she wants to have a healthy relationship and have a good, healthy husband that she can share emotions with, and listen to him and all of these things, she needs to figure out a way to deal with her aversion to vulnerability. Right? So that's something that I think he needs to dive back into.
Okay, so you're saying,
and try to work it out.
Communicate.
Yes.
And I would agree. It is terrible, that she did that. And, I can understand never wanting to communicate again to her. But, if you really want to make it work, we definitely encourage you to communicate, even though it's vulnerable to share and express that, your feelings were hurt again, after such an incident. But it is necessary. And watch to see if she has changed behavior, if she, respects that and changes and, work on, being better, able to handle your emotion. I think that's a green flag, that's positive. But if you notice that she continues to do this, maybe that's something you would need to reassess with yourself. Like maybe this person,
or a professional.
yeah, or a professional, but maybe, that's not what, that's not okay. But really and truly, we say definitely communicate and, express yourself. And thank you once again, for sending in this question. Like, I know it could not have been easy, especially
Yes.
listening to the episode. We talked about men and their emotions, but it is brave, it is courageous for you to share that
Yes.
with us. And we
Exactly.
do not take that for granted, and we hold space for you
Yes.
and all men and their emotions.
Correct. But
And
yeah, we want to definitely say too, because in the future you might need a different safe space. But what I want to say, echo, give women second chances. Men do not, not a lot of men, I'm not going to
yeah,
lie. Do not give one time and you're burned forever. Give women second chances. Maybe at that
absolutely.
moment and in that time, she did not know how to handle
Yeah, forgive
emotions.
each other.
And we're not saying, oh, you got to forgive every time. But women, time and time, they do forgive and they do try to work on make things better. So give women second chances, guys.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes. So that's a great point. And yeah, so thanks again for tuning in to another episode of the Lyme and Healing podcast. Once again, we are not medical professionals. So do not take, anything we say in this video to diagnose or treat yourself. We encourage you to go to a professional doctor for medical services.
Yes.
Yes. So please take your health seriously, guys. And once again, don't forget to like, subscribe, share this with your loved ones. It's a really good podcast that you can share to get that conversation about nutrition and your health in the right direction. We're already in 2024. We have many goals. Hopefully, putting your health is at the top of that list. And like always, please continue to follow and support our podcast. We appreciate you for listening and send us any questions you have. Like you see, we love to answer questions. So yeah, as always, Basalan, Basalan. See you next time.